I think what's lovely about textiles is that it can encompass such a huge mix of different techniques and approaches, and so I mean textiles is such a wide kind of umbrella really for so many different things, so I guess it just opened my eyes to all sorts of different possibilities. Hello.
Hello, Alice. Good morning.
Hi.
It's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom.
And you?
I'm so excited to talk to you today because I absolutely love what you're doing, your artwork and your whole philosophy. So I would love to talk more about that.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where are you based, Alice?
I'm in West Yorkshire in the UK.
And did you grow up there?
Not right here. I've moved about a bit, but I've been here for about 20 years. So.
Oh, really? Okay. So you're a local.
It depends who you ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've got the lovely accent.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the north of England, so it kind of, yeah. I'm vaguely local.
Okay. But Alice, first I have to ask you, as a child, did you already have the interest in art and collecting? Because you have to be a bit of a collector to do what you are doing.
Yeah, definitely. I've always collected things, and I've always made things. I mean, as a child, I can remember my bedroom floor was just covered in paper and stuff. I was always making things. So yeah, I've definitely always had an interest in art and craft and the natural world. So in terms of collecting, I mean, I was really interested as a child in things like finding, a dead butterfly and then collecting it. And, I've still got some of those things that I collected as a child, but partly just as a kind of out of natural history interest, as much as a kind of artistic angle, but they kind of go hand in hand, I think, really. So studying things for their kind of scientific for the interest in that, or but also for their beauty and to be able to draw them or whatever. So yeah.
So did you grow up in the countryside then, where you had the exposure to all this?
I didn't. I grew up in a town, but I suppose we've as a child we always went to the west coast of Scotland on holiday, and I did a lot of mountain climbing with my dad and my family and that kind of thing. So the outdoors was always a part of life growing up. I had grandparents that lived in the country, so going there was, I really enjoyed that kind of exploring wider spaces. So yeah, a kind of mixed kind of upbringing, I suppose, in terms of access to the countryside and so on. Yeah.
And science, was that a big thing, or like a big interest for you?
Again, I think the two kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we, again, on those family holidays, we would be seeing birds and flowers and then looking them up to see what they were. And my mum was very interested in botany, and so it's all just part of the same kind of passion for what's around us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always loved that kind of the natural history element of seeing what's around us and knowing, being able to identify what the things are that I'm seeing, it's all tied up really.
Yeah, and in school, did you, because you're talking, you mentioned craft, but this is really art what you are doing. Also, you have to have the craft aspect of it.
Yeah.
But in school, did you have opportunity, or was what you were doing, did you think then you were an artist?
Well, I always enjoyed art at school, and I did a bit. So yeah, I did GCSE and then A-level art. And I was very tempted to go to art college at that point, but was also equally interested in the sciences. So I also studied biology and geography, and then I ended up going to do a physical geography degree to start with. So
Really?
so yeah, again, the two kind of
Yeah.
hand in hand, and in a sense, at that point, I did kind of put art aside for a while. But I suppose I always felt it's the kind of thing that it's, something like that's always part of your life. It doesn't, whether it's your profession or not, it's there, isn't it? So then after I had children and I was off work with small children, I suppose I re-engaged with my artistic side, and then decided that I wanted to retrain, and yeah, so that's when I went to study textiles.
Okay. But it must be wonderful if when your children were little to also involve them in something like that.
In a way, yeah, I think it's just as I suppose they were just used to me picking up odd things. I mean, the house is full of stuff that I've collected at different points, or yeah, it's just normal to them. Yeah.
So you went in and you studied textiles. Why specifically did you want to study textiles?
Well, I before I went to do the degree, I did an adult education class just as an afternoon a week at a local college that was specifically in textiles. I think before I'd done that, I would have been more likely to go and do fine art, but I went to this course with a friend, and that just sparked, I suppose, an interest in specifically in textiles. And then I felt I wanted to take it further and go and do a degree. But I all through the degree, even though it was kind of aimed at the more commercial side of textiles, so design for textiles, I always had the kind of slightly more kind of fine art approach. And so by the time it came to the final year and we could kind of self-direct what we wanted to do, I was much more interested in making art pieces rather than design for sort of commercial application. So in a sense, I was able to kind of take from that what was useful to me and then use it in a way that was right for me. Yeah.
But now, and this is just about, because I'm also a mum, and my children are now older, but I can remember also the time that you need when your children are little, and even if they're in school, all their activities. How did you get to study something like, because I know I can imagine studying textiles, you've got a lot of work and practical work to do, and so how did you manage that?
Well, I did it part-time, so it took me 5 years to do the degree. There's no way I could have done it full-time and engage properly. But I think, I mean, as you know, as a mum, you learn to organize your time accordingly and take kind of snippets of time here and there. And I mean, I can remember when I was at college that people saying to me, how can you be so prolific in terms of the work you're making? And I think it was just, particularly as a mature student, you're there because you really want to be. And having gone through the degree, the first degree I did, and you're there for different reasons as a mature student, I think, or you can be more focused. And I think as a parent, you're even more focused.
Yeah.
So yeah, do part-time made a big difference, yeah, just being really organized and taking opportunities. But I think also, I mean, in a way, this also it applies to the way that I work now. You don't switch off from, just because you leave the college doesn't mean that you're not thinking about things, or you can be thinking about your work when you're washing up or driving somewhere. And actually, in some ways, those kind of removed activities, repetitive domestic activities, are actually I find can be quite a useful time for reflecting on things in a, in not in a very structured way, but yeah, I think it's partly just about that kind of that it enters all parts of your life, and that's not to say I can't switch off completely when I need to,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's about I feel very much that the way I work is about a way of life. It's not, yes, it's my profession, but it's not a job that I kind of go to the office and then leave behind. It's with me all the time. It's a way of life, really.
And I agree with you about that stepping away, because I've found that sometimes with photographs as well. If you're constantly working on something and you just have to go away and you come back, you see it in a different light. And yeah.
Mm.
But so when you studied now the textiles, do you think this made a big change in how you then started doing this art?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, working with cloth is very different to perhaps what I would have done before. But uh, I think what it enabled me to do was to bring in some of the kind of interest in the natural world. So I mean, I'm particularly interested in using natural dyes, natural stains. I do draw quite a lot, but I make my own inks and try and use as much as I can that's kind of natural. So it's partly about that, a real appreciation for materials. And a questioning of materials and where they come from. And yeah, I think it really got me going on things to do with kind of texture um, and then I mean since then I've kind of things have shifted and my work's gone much more three-dimensional and so on. But that, I think what's lovely about textiles is that it can encompass such a huge mix of different techniques and approaches. And so I mean textiles is such a wide kind of umbrella really for so many different things. So I guess it just opened my eyes to all sorts of different possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, and I read you're also much aware of the environment and sustainability. And was that also something that has been in you all the time? I mean, is it
Yeah,
something that you've been aware of all the time?
yes, absolutely. And something, as a child, I was really passionate about that. So to me, it's just a natural step that's part of that underpins the way that I work now. I mean, I'm always sort of questioning what I'm doing and what kind of impact it has. That's not to say that I'm absolutely perfect. There are always things that we shift in, but it's a very important part of my approach. And I think particularly because I feel like in an artistic practice, it's a part of life where I have control over. There are so many parts of our lives that we don't have full control over, kind of what's available to us or whatever the structures that we live within. And whereas me deciding how to run my artistic practice, it's up to me to make those decisions. So it is something I can sort of try my best to make as sustainable as possible. Yeah, so it's a work in progress, but and I feel that it's not just about it's not necessarily about a kind of campaigning kind of activity.
Yeah.
I do feel that by working in a particular way, I can show other people potentially that that there is a way, there is an approach that might be more sustainable than others.
I agree with you there that it's, that, and I think also it's that uh, when it's presented in a way like, oh, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't that and you shouldn't use this, but rather than saying, look, this is what I can do with, and still be, um, ecologically minded and thinking of my environment. And these are all the possibilities that are available. And I think it is, if we just start thinking and getting a bit back to the basic things, then we realize how much is there.
Mm.
Um, but now tell me the different things you are making and the different products you are making.
Okay, so I mean, I make artwork. I'm not making functional objects really. I'm making what's often might be seen as quite experimental objects. So they're art pieces, but because I'm using the things that I find, sometimes that comes from object. You know, I might pick up a piece of something, and then that sparks off a way of working with it. Sometimes I'm creating structures or surfaces with different materials, and the main kind of materials that I'm focusing on at the moment are all things that are grown on my allotment. So I grow flax to process into linen. As much for the kind of engagement with that whole kind of process. There are lots of different steps to go through to in that, and it's, you know, slightly different every year, and it's a long process that it takes quite a lot of effort, but also that's about understanding, you know, the understanding what we wear, you know. Everything we have has come from you know, how it's been made, and it's very easy to be kind of removed from that process. So I grow flax, but then I'm also increasingly using a lot of what most people would class as weeds. So nettle for taking the fibre from that, brambles, blackberries, fibre. In fact, I've got a piece here, which is so this is an old spade handle top. And then this is the vessel that's made, added onto it is made from bramble fibre, so it's really strong and tough.
Wow. This is amazing. And you say the fibre, how do you remove the fibre?
So it's a case of stripping, picking the stems when they're at the right time. So now is good through the kind of summer into early autumn, and stripping off the leaves and thorns, and then you scrape away the thorns, and then you can basically split away the fibre from the core, and then it gets dried. So there's kind of a whole, again, every fibre has a different set of processes. So that's the bramble. I'm also using bindweed a lot, which is you know, most gardeners absolutely hate. I have a kind of love-hate relationship with it because I still hate it at times. This is bindweed.
Beautiful.
So you can see the kind of real lovely mix of tones in there.
Yes.
And I mean, there's hours and hours of work in that, just because it's quite fine once it's dried.
So
again, it's very strong.
Is that sort of so you just plait it, or how do you?
So that one that's coiled and then stitched with the bindweed itself. So yeah, and I also use it. What do I else do? The bindweed, I generally work in that way with it. It's quite it's a bit flat. Other things. So this is.
But I just want to ask about that one. The colors. The colors are just amazing. I love that it's so.
So that's just natural changes in tone.
Yeah. But does it change from year to year? The colors change, or the seasons when you use it?
There's a natural variation in the colours of the stems anyway. So when I pull them, some of them have got a sort of purple tinge to them. Some of them are a bit more greeny. They're green when I gather them, but with these kind of mix of other tones in there. And then as they dry, they go to this lovely kind of mix of browns. So all the materials will, as they dry, their tones will mellow. But it's only really when you actually see it kind of used in this way that you become aware of those tonal changes. I think because they're kind of, the fibres are laid next to each other and so on, it just really brings that out. The other thing that I'm using a lot of is dandelion stems. So this is woven dandelion cordage, and again you get a lovely shift in tones. I don't know if you can see in there that some are
Yes.
lighter, some are darker. It's a lovely kind of golden quality to
So
it.
this is literally the stem
The
that.
stems of the dandelion. So I pick when they grow quite long in the spring, the
Yeah.
ones that grow in long grass. So not the ones that get mown in the lawn. There's
Oh, yeah,
no
yeah.
point with those. They need to be nice and long. And when they're amongst long grass, they will grow really quite long. The longest one I picked this year was measured. It was 98 centimeters.
What?
I mean that's unusual, but
Yeah.
they can grow really long. So those I pick them when there's lots of them. Again, they get dried, and then I make twist it basically into a string, cordage, and then in this case it's woven. I've got another piece here which is actually about to go off to America. So this is braided stems.
And this is
Again,
the
you can really
dandelion.
see that tonal shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, you cannot imagine that when you see a dandelion.
No, I know.
That could be the color.
Yeah.
But
And again, they start off green and then they kind of shift to a sort of golden, yellowy color. And then as I'm working with them, they kind of mellow to this mix of browns as well. So yeah.
But you say that you experiment a lot. So, do you really look at things and think, hey, let me get a hand on that and let me get and try and see what happens?
Yeah, I think it's always informed by other things though. So although the materials that I'm using are quite unconventional, and I mean the dandelions in particular and the bindweed, that's something that has kind of come from working with other or learning about other plant materials that might be used more traditionally in basket making, and then so looking at a material and understanding how you need to treat it to be able to use it, and then thinking, right, well, if I can do it with that material, I wonder if I can do it with this one. And so it's not just that it's all kind of come at once. It's little steps along the way. It's learning little snippets of things with one material and then kind of transposing that or trying that on something else, and then thinking, well, and not everything works, but yeah, I do. I feel like I'm always learning, and I, that to me is satisfactory. I like to be always pushing on to the next thing. So, I mean, the bindweed, that's really something I've only been working with this year, and again, I've worked with it on a particular scale, and then I'm kind of pushing it on and seeing if I can scale that up or in different forms, or so. I'll try one thing, learn how to work with it, and then see how I can push it on. And yeah,
this is amazing. I love that. But you say it's not functional. But the little mats that you woven, I mean, that can be used.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. They're not intended to be functional. And also the amount of time and effort that goes into making those. I mean, if you compare that to something like something you'd get in a shop that was kind of cheaply made and probably by somebody that's underpaid in another country, and somebody might pay a few pounds for something, and then I'm spending kind of tens of hours on something. They are then being they're kind of being presented as art pieces in a gallery situation. So they're an entirely different kind of thing, really. So yeah, I mean, you could make some sort of functional object with some of it, but when you're then trying to kind of present these as art pieces, it's a very different kind of context, really.
Yeah.
And I think I would hope that people seeing these works would be are understanding that it's an unconventional material and that there's a huge amount of work gone into getting it to that state.
But you are actually making us look at nature differently, because you like you say, you look at the dandelion and you can see something made from that. And if I see it now like that, we just look at dandelions as little weeds, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it is a wonderful way with what you are doing, also making us look differently at nature, at the
Yeah.
possibilities, you know, that we have there.
Yeah, the possibilities, but also just the kind of appreciation, the fact that we
Yeah.
dismiss things so easily as an annoyance because it's in our, it's not where we want it to be, or it's where we don't want it to be. But actually, if we can really understand the value of these kind of dismissed things, but also, I mean, all of these plants are so valuable for wildlife as well. So
Mm.
the dandelion in particular is a really useful pollinator for the insects when it's out in the spring. So I think it's part of a kind of celebration of that as well,
Mm.
and yeah, just an appreciation of what's around us.
But now, tell me, Alice, now when you started creating these artworks, of course, there's always, and this is what many artists also tell me, it's always that side that they don't really enjoy, and that's the business side of things. Because you have to market yourself and you have to um, tell people your story and so on. So, is this something that you find or that you found easy to get people to understand what you are doing?
I wouldn't say easy. I mean, I think it, like you say, it goes hand in hand with being self-employed, working freelance. You have to be you have to be an expert in all areas of your
Yeah.
business, not just in your materials and what you're making. Um, I think I'm fairly well organized, so I do kind of try and organize my time so that I'm, doing all the things I need to. Um, Social media is really useful in that sense, being able to kind of share a certain amount of what you're doing and is a nice way of. I mean, in a sense, there's no point spending time making these things if then nobody ever sees them. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, I particularly enjoy doing books, so that's something that I've uh, done I've done books for publisher, but also I've self-published. So every time I've done a big project, I've done a publication that goes with it. So, and that in some ways has become the kind of the product, if you like, because a lot of my work is either not that easily, it's not very commercial work. So
Yeah.
so to be able to have something a book that tells the story of the work and what's behind it and interprets it, that can be sent out all over the world, and so people can um, access that without necessarily even
Mhm.
having seen my work in person. So I found that that's been quite a nice a kind of a surprise, really. I didn't set out to be a self-publisher, but each time I've done a project, I've learned more about how to present it in that form, and quite
Mm.
enjoy doing that. Yeah, so um, I mean, I'm probably not the best businesswoman in the world, but I try my best.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And you do exhibitions as well?
yeah. So I make things for exhibitions. I have done solo exhibitions in the past. I've also been in various kind of group exhibitions.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I've got work at the moment in a gallery in London, Jagged Art, and then also there's an exhibition in Leeds on at the moment that's got some of my work in. I'm about to
Amazing.
send
Mm.
off these two framed pieces I've got here to America for an exhibition later in the autumn. So yeah, exhibitions I mean, to me, that's the kind of aim for my
Mm.
work, is to be in galleries, and the other stuff kind of goes alongside, really.
Yeah. And you also teaching, or you also doing workshops?
Yeah, I
Mm.
teach lots of workshops in various places around the country, occasionally abroad as well. And again, that just kind of goes hand in hand. As soon as people are seeing your work, they want to come learn how to do some of the techniques.
Mm.
Um, and also as a freelance artist, that generally is how you make make a
Yeah.
living. So the teaching is a really important part of it.
Mm. And do you find that people are getting more interested in that? Because now also we are more aware of the environment after the whole pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I think my workshops have been popular for a number of years, but I think that that's also, people get to know your work. The more people get to know your work, the more people want to come on things. But yeah, I think there is definitely a particular interest in working in sustainable ways. I mean, that there's always been an interest in that, but I think it's
Yeah,
becoming more mainstream.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
I think so too, yeah. But Alice, tell me now, what are your wishes for the future? How
Um,
many plants are you going to find experiment with?
I don't know. I mean, I never really know kind of what what's coming next in terms of where my
Mm.
work's going. I mean, I'm making, so at the moment I'm making some bigger work, bigger pieces than I ever have done in these materials. I've made big work that was cloth and paper based before, but I've ever since working with these kind of found and gathered materials, I've been working on a much smaller scale because it's much harder to have enough material to work bigger.
Mm.
But I'm trying to push that and see how I can scale things up. So that's interesting. I don't know where that will go. And I've just had another book published by Batsford. Is it okay to show that?
Yes, please.
Wild Textiles is that it just came out last week. So this is the second book I've done for Batsford, and this has got a lot of the techniques in that I use, and all about growing the different materials and so on. So that, I mean, it'd be interesting to see where that takes me next.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know really. I just want to keep going. I feel I've there's always so much more. I wish there were so many more days in the week.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I want to be trying all the time with either with the same materials or try different things. Yeah, I just want to keep making things really. And
Yeah. But
yeah.
that's amazing. Do you ever find yourself that where you see a plant and just think, or is that how you look at things around you now, to think, okay, this I can maybe use for something, or would it be possible to use it? Do you have that sort of mindset when you look at the world around you?
A bit, yes. I mean,
Mhm.
I think I've got a pretty good handle on the kinds of leaves or the kind of stems that are usable, and also, but I think what I also like is the constraints of working with what I've got access to now. So,
Okay.
I mean, I often get messages from people saying, "Oh, I've got this some kind of vine growing here, and can I use it?" And my answer is always, well, I've not worked with that specific plant because I don't have it accessible, but the best thing is to just give it a go.
Yeah.
And so I feel, I mean, yes, I've got particular knowledge of these materials that I've got access to, and there's loads more that I know I can learn and experiment with those specific ones. I don't feel like I need to always be moving on to different materials because
Yeah.
I want to really kind of get to grips more with the ones I've already got and the ones I'm working with now. But I'm always open. So, if there's something else growing on the plot there's loads of stuff that there's a lifetime's work in just exploring the
Yeah.
things on that little tiny piece of land, really.
Mhm.
I've done lots of bits of natural dyeing in the past, but less so more recently with these fibres that I've been concentrating on. But I've just this year for the first time tried making a woad. I've grown woad, and I'm trying to use that to dye with. So again, that's another little experiment. Everything you then have to wait for the next season, so I can experiment with what I've got this year, test it out. It would then take another the year's circle to kind of get to a point where I could then push that on a bit more and use it again. So it's a slow process. Everything is slow,
Mm.
but that's how I want it. That's good.
Mm.
Slow is good.
That's amazing, and you must have a lot of patience if you can do it that way. Wait for a whole year. But Alice, this was so lovely to talk to you. I absolutely love your work. I'm going to look for the book. Is it available on Amazon?
Yeah, it's available through any of the booksellers, or you can get it through my website. And yeah, it's well available at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put you a link of your website on the description of the video. And then also, if people want to contact you about workshops or
It's
more
they're all
information, it's on
listed
your
on the
website.
website. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
information from there, and different publications, and there's some other podcasts and things all linked from there.
Okay. Okay. That's wonderful. But Alice, now I want to ask you just one last question. Where do you go for coffee? Can you do a shout out to a coffee place in your area?
Oh gosh, where do I go for coffee? So yeah, there's a really sorry, I'm just thinking there are so many places around here for coffee. The place actually, the one that I really like is it's not right round the corner. It's just a little further away in a little town called Ilkley, and it's called Toast House. And they just make the best coffee, but also they make the most amazing cakes and lovely things on toast. It's just it's a lovely place.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll put their link also in the description.
Yeah, Toast House in Ilkley. Yeah.
Toast House. Okay. But Alice, thank you so much for your time. This is so wonderful to talk to you, and thank you so much for showing some of your work. And really, I absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Okay. Alice, have a lovely afternoon.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.